Welcome, and thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. Each week, we sit down with CRE experts to uncover trends, insights, and strategies that are currently shaping the industry. I'm Shanti Ryle, Director of Content Marketing here at Crexi, and today we are so excited. It's been a long time coming to sit down with the dirt dog himself, Chris Hatch.
Thanks for having me on.
So excited to have you here. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this conversation, which is going to be awesome, let me tell our audience a little bit about you. Chris Hatch is manager of Forza, a third-generation real estate professional who began his career under the guidance of his father and grandfather before joining professional brokers in 2002. After several years in commercial sales, leasing, and retail expansions across the Intermountain region, he co-founded IRG Retail with Jake Olson in 2006. Licensed in Utah, Montana, Nevada, and Idaho, Chris Hatch has worked alongside developers, architects, city officials, and property owners, always emphasizing clear and timely communication. Outside of real estate, he's an avid outdoorsman and a passionate Las Vegas Raiders fan. I'm so sorry about yesterday.
I know. They got to get it dialed in.
Yeah, for context, we are recording this the day after the Chargers-Raiders game. I'm a Chargers fan, so I can't say I share sentiments.
Bring it up again. You can bring it up again.
Chargers never win, so yeah. I got to take what I can get.
They look good this year.
We'll see. We'll see. It's always the last part of the season where you're just like, I can't hold out hope. It's a novelty support for me.
Yeah, you can never give up, though. You never know.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, always have hope. It's good advice. So I know very briefly covered your background. Chris, I want to hear your story from the beginning. So third generation member of the commercial real estate community. Can you tell us a little bit about growing up with that in your family? And, what are some of the earliest lessons you had growing up around the business?
Yeah, my grandfather was an oil and gas landman. And so he would go find good minerals to purchase in the way of, production where the oil and gas folks were out drilling wells. And so he actually diversified into commercial real estate in the 60s and 70s and was doing open book build-to-suits with Texaco. And so, that was kind of his background or, side project. And then my dad was a Albertsons shopping center developer.
Oh, yeah.
And so I literally grew up with it around the dinner table. You would hear about leases and you'd hear about tenants and new projects. And this city council's given me heartburn and, all of it, right? And so just from an early age, that's what I remember. In fact, I remember going to an ICSC at like age 16 or 17.
Wow.
Sneaking into the, convention center the night
in Vegas.
Yeah, in Vegas on Sunday because it used to start on Monday. Mm-hmm. Going in on Sunday, it's hot in there on Sunday. They don't have the AC going.
I have been in there on a Sunday setting stuff up, and it's terrible.
For those listening that have been through that experience, it is not a pleasant situation. No. And so, but I just remember going and setting his booth up, right? And and so that's how I grew up. I grew up around the dinner table with it.
That's so awesome. So, are there any? I'm curious. Sounds like you were maybe brought to projects, brought to development sites, maybe brought to city council meetings. Who knows? As a young person, were there any moments, before you went off to college and started building your own career, that you felt like those lessons really stuck with you and informed what would become your business and investment in commercial real estate thesis?
I think from a young age, my parents encouraged us to be very hard workers. And that translated, I think, into, for me at least, just constantly being on the move, constantly working on something. And so is my break in life is when I went on a 2-year Mormon mission at age 19 and went to New Jersey. And, as I tell anybody, if you can sell religion door to door, you can basically sell anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The bikes and everything.
All of it.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's an experience, right? And so kind of there was everything that kind of led up to that point in my life. And then kind of after that, when I went into my professional career. And so I started as a broker in 2002 when I got home. Mm-hmm. And I was going to college and I was a broker. And
simultaneously.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay.
It was intense.
Carry on.
Yeah. So the first 2 semesters, I think I, worked probably part-time hours. And then after that, I'd been in it for a year. And so I moved everything to night classes. And I had a full-time workload during the day. And it was intense.
Yeah.
And that year, too, I mean, I was already representing Starbucks. I was representing Dollar Tree, Wells Fargo, Wendy's.
Sure.
And you're out trying to find sites for them, and you're still trying to figure out stats class because, who really understands stuff like that sometimes?
I never took stats. I took calculus, but I never took statistics. I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah, whatever the class is for anybody, that gives you a nightmare, right, to this day. You know?
Yep.
And so it was just so funny because I would switch back and forth between the professional world and that. And I think there was a lot going through my brain at that point in time. And it's just a lot to process, right? You had a full-time workload, you had the full-time school load. And I was starting to date my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. And so, it's just a lot happening during that time period of life, but I loved it. I wouldn't change anything, and just getting right in the trenches and doing deals is the way to learn this business.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you're a very hands-on person, and if you got more challenge, more being added to your plate, you're like, let's go.
Yeah.
You get energized by that. I love it. So first few years of being in brokerage, I'm curious, you're juggling all of this. But was there a deal maybe early on in your career where you just went, I'm in the right field. This is it for me?
I would definitely say the very first building I bought, and so I didn't buy anything until 2010. So I had been a broker for about 8 years, gone through the GFC, got out of the great financial crisis, emerging from there, trying to figure out what life was there. And then in 2010, there was an opportunistic buyout in Arby's that came up, and it was located in Utah. And the sellers on the Arby's were these 2 sisters, super cute ladies. They were in their early 80s, and they were nervous because there were 3 years left on the lease. And their dad had helped get the restaurant built.
Sure.
And their concern was that the tenant might vacate. And so they didn't want to leave their heirs with that. They thought that was messy. And so they decided to sell it. It was a perfect buy for me because I was looking at something that looked under-rented to me because I understood the rental market because I had been doing leasing for 8 years. And so it was a great opportunity for me to step in and say, I would like to buy this, and then just wait out, the lease. There was a couple years left, and we had to wait a couple years, and then we went and put a new lease together, and it was a great asset. And
Still with Arby's?
Still with Arby's.
Yeah. All right.
Yes. And on that deal, as we went and bought it, I bought it with my grandfather as my partner.
I love that.
And right before I fixed the lease and made it much more valuable, he turned around and sold that interest to my siblings and I.
Wow.
At his cost, and then carried the paper.
Wow.
And so it was literally he
leaving a legacy for you.
Yeah, and he birthed me into the commercial real estate process as part of that. And I just remember sitting down with him, and I'm like, "Well, you don't need to do this." And he's like, "What am I going to do with the money?" I'm like, at the time he was like 95 years old. He's like,
"Wow,
really? What am I going to do with it? I mean,
yeah.
Nothing. So use it and then go do a million more deals."
That's amazing. Not only did just being around him and your dad set you up for what the day-to-day looks like, but that's such a nice closure and launch into the ownership space. Yeah. What a gift.
It was great. It was so much fun. And, it was really entertaining the day. I just remember driving over to his house. I have the lease in my hand, right? And I need him to sign it. And he's just looking at it, and he's just like, "This is remarkable. Like, it really worked exactly how you thought it was going to work." And I was like, it was so encouraging.
Yeah.
And to that point, and me trying to follow his advice, I just closed on my 98th property a couple of weeks ago. And so,
are you going to celebrate for the 100th?
I'll celebrate when I get to 1,000.
Okay, fair enough.
It's fine.
All right, we'll check back with you then.
That's great. Give me a couple of years.
Yeah.
No, but I just have kept going. I've never stopped. It's so much fun. We love it.
I love that. Ugh, that's so sweet. Oh my gosh. So that's your jumping point off into the ownership side of things, becoming an actual investor, not just brokering it. Since then, you've worn so many hats: developer, property manager, broker still. Which, of the skill sets you have to juggle with all those different roles, where do you see the most commonality in which of those do you think is most natural to you, and which have you had to really develop and strengthen?
Yeah, That's a great question. First, I think they all help you become better at the other roles. So, for example, when I bought that first building, I had switched my career from being a leasing agent to a sales agent. I was selling net lease properties. And once you own a property, it makes you a much better seller of property. Like, you understand how that process works much better. You understand how to be a better broker. You understand how to interact with the customer. You understand what their concern might be. And so I think I was a natural in both the leasing and the sales broker side. I think fast food was just such a natural fit for me. It's probably primarily because my dad did these Albertson centers and they would take 10 years to develop. And I just kind of looked at it like most kids looking at their parents, and I said, I know how to do this better, right? I'll do it better. I don't
Sure.
I don't think I do it better by any means, but it's faster, right? This just doing the out parcel works much quicker. I've never really found a passion or love for property management, and I'm not sure I ever will. But I understand the business, and we obviously own and run, a management company managing 5 million square feet of property, and that's not mine. So, it is a lot of fun, and it's a very fun business, and it's important to have management dialed in, because, just immediately the moment you own more than 2 or 3 buildings, it's very difficult to do that without having it be a role.
And they know everything about the properties.
Yes.
Absolutely everything. They are the gatekeepers of the secret knowledge.
Now, am I going to fall asleep? Is it a cure for narcolepsy going through a cam wreck? Yes, 100%. I mean, I can't even fathom trying to harness my brain down for that exercise. It would be intense.
Mad props to the property managers of the world.
For sure.
So it's a lot. It's a lot that Forza does. You have your hands in so many pies, or whatever the metaphor is. How do you manage all that work with the rest of your life? It's got to be stressful. How do you unwind? How do you balance family time?
Yeah.
Are your kids going to be in commercial real estate?
Well, first off, you don't get anywhere without a good companion or significant other, or wife in my case. And so, massive props to her for being an amazing person. Every bit of intensity that I bring to work life, she brings that and more to our home life. And so, some of the things that she has, it is scary when you sit down and schedule with her. It is often, often a date night in our household looks like, us going to a nice restaurant, and then, we'll probably just stop at the office and sit at the conference room and plan for an hour and a half after. And she loves that, right? That is like her.
Do you do quarterly reviews with each other?
Not quarterly reviews, but let me tell you, I am not allowed to schedule things outside of work hours. Yeah, I do not run that calendar, not even close. And so, it's just, I think you constantly have to, I just think of all the things that people can fill their dead time with, right? There's so much dead time in life. How much time do all of us spend scrolling and looking? And I mean, here we are, right? Of course.
Hopefully we're providing value with this conversation.
That's right. When you're driving and you're commuting, to or from work, I mean, there's so much time in your day where you can spend it doing something more productive. And what I try to do with that dead time and the downtime is that's when I try to think through, how are my interactions with my children? What's going on? Have I paid enough attention to my wife? Et cetera, right? I mean, so those are great times to think through that and try to figure out what you can do better.
Yeah.
So.
And it's probably good to think about something other than what fills out at least 8 hours of your day.
Yes.
Often many more if you're doing all the things you're doing. And that time away helps you better process or problem solve maybe things. It lets you reframe things in your brain, gives it a break. It's probably nice to have that mental reset.
I think it is. It's definitely healthy. And also, a lot of the activities we do, like I just came in from Monday Night Football. I was there with my wife. And, we were right next to Gates at the airport this morning as she was flying home and I was flying
I thought you meant Bill Gates. I was
no,
like,
no,
what?
No. We just had adjacent
Airport
Gates at the airport. Excuse me. No, so we try to build our lives. The two of us do try to build our lives. It's intense and it's busy, and our kids are busy and they're active. But we're not like a big video game household. We're not a household where the kids just lounge around. Right. I mean, you're expected to get some stuff done. So
Yeah.
But then we also we recreate in the same way, right? I mean, they're skiers and they like to wake surf, and we do a lot of things together as a family, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that. So, a lot of a company's ability to grow and not spend every waking hour thinking about that stuff and have that free time with the family is effectively scaling and finding the right people to build out that team. So, Forza does all these different things. How do you think about building the team? What do you look for when you're hiring someone? What do you look for when maybe mentoring somebody in commercial real estate? What key attributes stand out to you, or do you try to nurture?
You can't teach hard work. If somebody has reached adult life and is not a hard worker, they're not going to change the next year and become a hard worker. I think those things are learned in your youth. And so it's probably the number one trait. I can almost get over just about everything else if they're not a hard worker. And, that is top of the list, right? And obviously there's the no-brainers, loyalty, honesty, some of those other things that are key traits that you want to look for. But, as we sit there and we try to make a strategic hire for one of our departments, or, somebody's going to run a team, I really, I don't care if you've got all the experience in the world. I don't care if you have all the educational experience in the world. When it all comes, when triage mode is required and everything that can go wrong goes wrong, what are you going to do? And that's where you can't make up for hard work, right? If somebody will just jump in and just get after it and go try to solve the problem, get hands-on, that's what we're after. Those are the kind of people we like at our office.
Yeah. And how would you try to sniff that out when you're having a first conversation with somebody?
I think it's exceptionally hard to figure that out in the interview process. It's helpful if you know them in advance. It's helpful if you know their upbringing, like who their parents are. We're still a small town in Salt Lake, right? I mean, it is a very small place.
Sure.
We've got a lot of family members working there. So, I mean, a lot of these folks I've known since they were kids or babies, or, met them along the way.
Yeah.
There's a kid that in our neighborhood that I was coaching flag football on Saturday, and he's out there at the rec center. And I mean, this is a 15, 16-year-old kid, right? And he's out at the rec center refereeing. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I ref here all year round. This is my part. This is my job.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought, that's a kid right there that,
call me in a couple years.
That's exactly.
Get your license.
I mean, most of the other 16-year-old kids are just taking a handout from mom and dad, whatever else. They got things going on in their lives. But here, this kid has figured out how to work and have a job while he's going to school.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Somebody that makes things happen.
Yep.
It sounds like. And hard work is definitely a big part of that. But I think also overcoming obstacles or thinking around them is a really important asterisk to add to that.
As far as our brokerage company, Legend Commercial, like trying to figure out what broker is going to work, honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody who runs a brokerage office can honestly sit here and tell you they know which brokers are going to really knock it out of the park and which ones aren't. I think they're lying if they do, because I don't think you have any idea. It's all about drive.
Yeah.
It's important to have somebody, that has drive, has initiative. It's good if they have some purpose in life. That purpose might be kids. That purpose might be a mom. That purpose might be anybody else in their life, or some passion, or they want this, they want a house, they want, the next thing, whatever it is. They got to have drive, but trying to select brokers that are going to be top volume brokers that's a tough exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to prove it out. That's why we see that attrition or pretty early on in most careers.
Yes.
So I want to get into the good stuff that Forza is up to. So you mentioned another of your companies. Let's just list them all out. Everything that you're doing.
Yeah, Forza Commercial is the entity that we run our development and property management arms under. We have Legend Commercial, which is our brokerage company. And then we have Mahalo Pros, which is a property maintenance company. And
okay, for like repairs and...
Yeah, cutting the grass, pushing snow,
Very nice.
Everything goes into maintaining a commercial property.
Yeah. All right. And my understanding is, when we were chatting about this, is that the development arm is one of the newer ones?
Yeah, we started that in January of 2020.
Woo!
Amazing timing.
Woo!
Yeah.
Okay. The funny thing about development is it is the riskiest corner of all the different things that you're working on, right?
For
you
sure.
spend so much capital up front, really hoping that the deal is going to work out the way you want it to. You will run into 5 million problems along the way. How, I'm curious, we can go back a little bit to the businesses that were before, but what was the journey that you went on that led to by January 2020, you're like, I'm ready for this hardest of tasks?
Yeah. So I bought that first building in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And then between 2010 and 2020, we purchased about 45 properties in there.
Dang.
And in that time frame, some of them were just, I didn't really ever buy anything that was stable, right? Like a long-term asset with nothing to do on it. It always had some version. So for a little while, we were looking at the strip malls or the shadow anchored grocery stuff where you have kind of like that terracotta slope tile, facade, which was really heavily built out in the 80s in this country. And so ripping that off, creating a new clean facade look and modernizing the building was a great way to bump rents. And so we did a handful of those and then we did some ground up Starbucks, and we did an Arby's and a handful of other restaurants, a couple of Ace Hardwares. And in the middle of that, we always partnered with a developer client. And so we constantly go to the developer client. And I just felt like after doing a handful of projects with other people, I felt like going through the great financial crisis for me felt like getting a graduate degree. This felt more like getting a doctorate degree going through that, because I had gone through the process 45 different times with partners and watched how they reacted. And I learned what I liked. I learned what I didn't like as much. And I learned a couple of things that I just would never do. And so it was a very healthy process to go through that.
Yeah.
And so then, when we hit January of 2020, we said, look, let's do a ground up, platform, and let's get this thing running. Our brokerage company was started in 2017. So we were, 4 years old at that point, 3 years old. And so it was at a point where it was kind of starting to go on its own. So I didn't need to pay as much attention to that. And so my bandwidth was freed up, and I thought, I want to put my bandwidth into building ground up retail. That's what I want to do. And we'll build some multifamily projects too, but really the passion is drive-thrus. And so that's where we started.
Yeah, that's where Dirt Dogs really began, right?
Yes.
So I'm curious, something you mentioned you were excited about on our prep call is now that I can't believe it's been 5 years since 2020. It's insane. But now you're starting to get into build to suit, developing on behalf of other entities.
Yep.
How's that going? Where did that start, and what does that look like?
We bought 5 KFCs from one customer, and they called me, end of last year, and said, look, rather than you buy these KFCs from us, can you just do what you do for us? And I was like, boy, that doesn't sound that fun. It sounded like all the risk and really less reward.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if I was going to inherit any less risk. And as you've gotten to know me, I'm an all-in person. Like when I'm in, and all the way. Right?
We'll be tagging them. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
That's it. So I didn't feel like I was going to stress any less about a situation if I didn't own it. In fact, I might stress more actually in that situation. And so we spent some more time. Initially we kind of thanked them but passed, and then we spent some more time figuring out. They came back to us. We revisited the idea. As it warmed up, this customer turns out that they were really a uniquely good fit for us in a lot of ways. And so we, I think the way we would approach different concepts is very similar. They're, very much they're an employee-owned company, which is kind of unique in the fast food world.
KFC is?
This franchisee.
Oh, different.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Got it. Okay.
They did construct the world's first KFC, by the way, which is in South Salt Lake City.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fun fact. That's cool.
There you go. So we were just a good fit. So we started doing some work for them, and we initially were onboarded to build, to repurpose a dozen of their properties, and we're about 2/3 of the way through kind of that process of selecting all the tenants. And then, of course, we have to get them all open. So it's an ongoing thing, but at the moment
Yeah.
we're having a lot of fun. And they're exploring pulling the trigger on a new coffee concept as a potential franchisee. And if, that comes together, then that's going to keep us quite busy with them.
Yeah. I think that's something that's really interesting about the work that you do is you are very much, obviously we'll get into Dirt Dogs, but you're very much into trying new retail concepts. Like you are passionate about the brands and really helping those, entities get more of a literal foothold in the world, a literal place in the world. So how do you think about, with this fee-based development relationship with these clients, how do you fit into thinking about like how do we want the layout of this place to look? Like what is the energy? Because it's all a part of the branding of these tenants too, right? What that
So,
experience is.
our world is mostly on the outside of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that we don't build plenty of the things on the inside.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is most of the retailers really have a very strong opinion about how it's going to flow inside, commonly referred to as the engine, the machine, right? How their production line works.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's less of our role. Our role more is looking at, geez, is Nichiha the right material to put on that exterior, or should we think about something else? We do spend an exorbitant amount of time on flooring. I can't even begin to tell you. And the reason why is just simple. In a fast food restaurant, there is water everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is the water gets into the flooring, and it goes below whatever you have on top of the wood, right?
Yeah.
It gets through there, goes into the wood, then it starts to rot the wood out, and then you have a real problem, right? You get mold, you get failure of floor.
Yeah.
So we spend more time thinking about floors than the average person.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure other things besides water get into the floors too.
Yeah. I think where we probably shine in that, to answer that part of the question, where we shine in that situation is designing a really appropriate drive-through flow that just goes through.
Talk about that. Because drive-thrus continue to be a hot commodity. Even, obviously during COVID, people are like, buy it up, buy it up, buy it up, buy it up. We cannot have people inside. Keep them in their car. But it's still really desirable. So how do you think of drive-thrus when you're putting these buildings together?
It starts right at the beginning. And, we did a Kroger Center we were just third-party brokering and helping out the customers. But we put that center together. We put a shovel in the ground like 2015, 2016. And it was the fastest lease up in the state of Utah history on any grocery center. And it was just because we were involved from minute one, right, on the design side. And so I think one of the lessons there, for any developer is bring your marketing team in, your brokers that are going to do the leasing, bring them in right out of the gate. Get them into the equation when you're sitting there with the grocer and the site designer. Because you can design these buildings, often what happens is grocery site designers will shift all the multi-tenant buildings perpendicular to the road. What happens there is nobody wants to go in the middle space.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking ever, right? And so, I mean, there are some examples of that around the country that you can go look at, especially on Kroger's for whatever reason. There are middle spaces available all over in the multi-tenant buildings.
Yeah.
That's a problem because you make all your money on that last tenant.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all profit.
Yeah,
so you've got to have those things full. So pulling them up to the street, making them parallel with the road, designing good site drive-throughs while keeping in mind pedestrian access and bicycle access, which is, important. And it's good. You don't want any life safety issues whatsoever there. So you got to really think through that. However, that's not where the volume is coming from for the retailer. They're going through the drive-through. So you have to be thinking about how that drive-through traffic is going to flow and how they're going to get in and out of there. And for that, there is no replacement other than just to sit on a site and watch, right? And see the traffic and watch what happens and see how the flows work at 2 p.m. And then is that different than 6 a.m. or 9 a.m.?
You think Google Earth will ever get to a point where there's going to be like CCTV, like footage of what foot traffic and car traffic patterns look like?
It seems like that would be a very helpful tool in the tool belt.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's going to replace just
going there and seeing it. Yeah. You got to get the sense, the sixth sense.
I'm 25 episodes into the Dirt Dog pod where I only interview retailers that are rapid expanding retailers. I have yet to talk to one person that has come in there that does not go sit on the site and just check it out and then go talk to the people in the neighborhood and talk to the other store owners, the managers. That's how you get a sense for it.
You segued so perfectly because I was about to ask you about Dirt Dog. What is Dirt Dog? What's the Dirt Dog podcast?
So I was on the phone with Maggie Burns, who's with Insight, and she's out of the Midwest. And we asked her, "How you doing?" And she said, "I'm great. I'm just out here dirt dogging it." And it was just like kind of like took me back. I was like, Maggie's just like super cute lady. I'm like, did you just refer to yourself as a dog? Right? I was like, so. It was like literally it left me in shock, right? To have like any woman refer to herself as a dog, right?
Yeah.
I was like, and she's like, yeah, I'm dirt dog. Have you ever heard the term? And I'm like, never heard the term. This is about 18 months ago.
Okay.
And I said, Maggie, I'm going to use that term and I'm going to kind of run with it here. And she's like, yeah, I have a feeling you're going to. I can literally hear the wheels cranking in your head.
You're too excited. Something's about to happen.
For sure. And I said, absolutely. So we just leaned into it. And that was right when I started being full, open kimono on Twitter and LinkedIn and just sharing things live. And here's what's happening. And this is what we're doing. And hey, this one really didn't work. And this is painful. But let me tell you what we learned, right? Or this one worked and this is great. And as part of that, we just have leaned into it. And now anybody in the country knows if they've got a drive-through site, they can send it to my email, just dirtdogs@Forza Commercial. And, that's the easiest way to get us anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I walk at ICSC with this hat on, and I have literally hundreds of people that come up to me and just start talking to me. And then a few minutes in, they'll be like, oh, you don't know who I am. I'm like, I have no idea. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Have we DM'd?
Yeah.
I'm just going to assume yes.
And they're like, I followed you. And I'm like, oh, great. It's wonderful to meet you. Tell me about you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very helpful to have undoubtedly clear branding. That's for sure. I'm curious. So 25 episodes in, which is awesome. Most podcasts die before they hit 6 episodes. So you've avoided the elephant graveyard. And you're doing very well. It's a very popular show. If you haven't checked it out, please go give it a listen after you listen to this episode. But I'm curious for you, talking to all these high growth restaurateurs, what has been the most unexpected benefit of these conversations?
Whatever I was doing, I have literally pushed the bar 10 times higher. I need to do more. You cannot sit there. It's their growth, the energy that these folks they just kind of breathe about, the air about them is so infectious. It's incredible. And so, my first guest was Aaron Harris with Dutch Bros. And
I love Dutch Bros.
You're sitting there and you're like, okay, so literally they were at like a couple hundred stores when you got here and they're now at, 1,770 or something, right? You've literally built almost 1,000 stores here. And I'm like, what does that feel like? And he's like, well, I got to get more. And that's the answer. And it doesn't matter who it is. It's the same thing. Sitting down with chief growth officer at EOS Fitness, and it's the same thing, right? It's just, we're at 100 gyms. This is great. We need 500, right? And
number must go up.
Yeah, we got to keep going. And so whatever I was doing, it makes me just want to push harder. But the energy that they have is intense. Very intense. It's really infectious. It's kind of like your office out here. Your office is amazing.
Thank you. It's fun. It gets loud, but it's fun.
I go in and out of a lot of commercial real estate offices. This is more tech feeling. This is way more progressive than what you feel like in a lot of the commercial real estate offices.
Oh, yeah. You didn't even see. They get into some competitions. We have a very active Slack channel for our sales team, and I have to mute it because there'll just be like nonstop, blah, 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 close this deal, and dartboard throwing contest, and they spin the wheel for a bonus, and it gets crazy, but it's fun.
That's it. Well, you gotta love where you work, right?
Yeah. Oh yes. So I am curious, if you had to go back and start over from scratch in commercial real estate, would you do anything differently? And if so, what?
I wouldn't have chosen a different path. I've made loads of mistakes. In fact, we still make mistakes every day. But if you don't have the mistake happen, you don't know. You don't learn from it, right? And so I wouldn't change any of the things that I would know in advance that were going to go wrong. I wouldn't change those.
So you wouldn't have opened a bunch of In-N-Outs? Okay.
We decided 10 days ago to live stream a Dutch Bros being built. And so you
Cool.
currently, if you are a real drive-through nerd out there in the world listening to this, you can go watch our live stream.
Wait, is it like the Eagle's Nest in Big Bear?
100%.
Oh, that's
There's a
amazing.
Dutch Bros under construction in Athens, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And what you would notice is in the first few days, I announced this out everywhere that we were doing this. And I said, this is a remodel of this old Taco Bell.
Mm.
Well, for anybody who was following along, 3 days later, there was no building there. Well, the reason there was no building there is because we pulled all the drywall off the inside of the building, demoed it all out.
Yeah.
And there was so much dry rot and termite infestation into the wood that we...
Gross.
I know. The dry rot comes from water. It's back to the same thing, right? It's just water getting in everywhere. But we pulled everything off and then determined the structure was actually unsound, right? It wasn't even safe for people to go in and out of there. So we had to scrape the building.
You got to do ground up.
Great. Would I avoid that? I mean, I would like to probably not live through that every day of my life, right? On every project. But I now know things after going through this experience that I wouldn't have otherwise. And so I'm not a big believer of wanting to change the past for what the outcome might be into the future.
Yeah.
I've had a great one, but maybe the one thing I would add on there is I talk to lots of younger people in the business that are constantly trying to a lot of people are just like, I just want to start developing properties, to which I say, that's great. Go learn the trade for 20 years. Go get involved. Go do something for 10 to 20 years and become an expert. Go be an architect. Go do any of these things. You could be anything, broker, banker, you name it, but learn the craft, in the trenches.
Yeah, you got to be hands-on.
Yeah.
Which something else I really appreciate about the live streaming process is, I think, again, it's not the hands-on, but it is so much more of a look into the actual nitty-gritty, disgusting, rotted wood process that is development. On the outside, people will look at the project and be like, oh, wow, like that's so glamorous. You're a developer. You must make so much money and blah, 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 blah. You own this property. Oh, my gosh. Developers have the hardest job, but also the most gratifying job once you pull it off.
Super satisfying.
So gratifying.
We only did ground lease with In-N-Out on my In-N-Out in Salt Lake City. And so, unfortunately, they don't franchise or anything. It would be an amazing restaurant to be a part of for sure.
Yeah.
The satisfaction that I get, though, it was harder and took longer to move the billboard sign that was on the site to the other side of the site than it was to build the In-N-Out building.
Whoa.
Yes. Billboard regulation is really intense, right? There's a lot of parties involved.
In Salt Lake City or everywhere?
Pretty much any of the larger cities for sure. The larger the city, usually the more intense it is. And there's a whole bunch of language about off-premise signage, and cities don't like it necessarily. And so because of that, it makes it quite difficult. But just when I sit there and I enjoy, sitting there at the restaurant and I look across and I see a grandpa with a grandchild and friends getting together over here. It's so rewarding. It's crazy rewarding.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. If I ever actually get into commercial real estate, instead of just talking to people about it, I would want to veer towards development, I think. I do want to touch on some market stats. I could keep going on this other topic for a long time. But, since you're literally in the trenches working on retail, drive-through concepts, I'm curious, and nationally for that matter, what is your 30,000-foot overview of where the quick service restaurant market is, where it's headed? Obviously, there's a lot of macroeconomic factors at play right now, but I'm kind of curious, what are you tracking, for your own metrics? And is there anything that's really stood out to you in the last 12 months or so?
You and I were talking as I walked in, and you were asking about the All In Summit, because I went to the All In Podcast Summit last week here in LA, which was a great event. It's so interesting to me going to that event, because what I realize is how unprogressive and unforward we are in the commercial real estate industry. Take title, for example. You still sign purchase documents, sign a deed, and then the deed is then recorded. It's the same exact process that it basically was any time for the last 50 years, right? Nothing's really changed.
Further.
Yeah, right. Nothing's really changed. And so what's also interesting about that crowd at that conference that I went to is there's a lot of unique innovation coming through there. You have a lot of different things coming through. They're trying to figure out how to do food in mass production in bowl form, right, or plate form.
Mm-hmm.
And so think of like like a Chipotle line as you go down. Like, how do we do this faster and more efficient? How do we do it with robots? How do we use robots to do the cooking? How do we minimize human contact because it's of efficiencies and speed, really. So cost and speed. Pretty interesting watching some of those trends. Fascinating watching these retailers try to figure out how to sell a cup of coffee to a customer that walks into the dining room, sell a customer that goes through the drive-thru a cup of coffee, and then sell a customer that is located in their home but has a third-party delivery service picking that up. That component, that third one, has been fascinating. And a lot of brands are still struggling with how to do that efficiently and how to make the experience, what it should be. Right?
Yeah. I recently was talking to somebody at this company called Slice, which their whole pitch is they're trying to bring what Domino's brings to its franchisees to like boutique pizzerias, but like the amount of technology that goes into making sure your POS can handle DoorDashes, deliveries coming through, making sure like this client experience is consistent, so on and so on. There's a lot that goes into just that. And they only serve pizzerias. There's all these different kinds of restaurants that I think have yet to tap into that technology. So I'm curious, just from like watching these things being discussed at conferences, these are the ground zeros of these conversations. People are bringing together all these ideas and exchanging them. Where do you see the timeline being for some of these things coming into play with these operators?
I think we'll see in the larger cities, we'll start to see some continued automation come into the food process. McDonald's is probably leading the forefront, at least as far as any other retailer goes across the country or at scale. And they're doing more and more of that, right, with the customer interactions now being on the pad or the larger tablet, more or less, right, as you go in. And I think we'll just continue to see more of that, I would guess. It is interesting because at the same time you're watching that happen, you're watching the big three. And when I refer to the big three, I'm referring to the three top volume QSRs in all of the country, being Chick-fil-A, Raising Cane's, and In-N-Out. And they're going decidedly a different direction than that.
More like in person?
They're doubling down on customer service. It's hard to even imagine that any of those brands could be even better, but that's what they're doing, right? And you're watching In-N-Out grow into new states. All three are growing rapidly, right? But In-N-Out obviously opening these Tennessee stores soon. Yeah. And the biggest reason they're doing that is they've got all these qualified, wonderful team members that have worked with them for 10, 20, 30 years, and they have no way to grow without having them open new restaurants. They have to open new restaurants for that alone, almost.
Yeah,
if for no other reason.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to see any difference in the physical footprint as far as needing it and people still wanting person-to-person interaction there. I think the coffee world has decidedly gone to a drive-through model. And then there's also this place for a cafe, right? I still want a cafe if I want to, if you and I wanted to catch up and we hadn't seen each other for a while, a cafe is a wonderful place to go do that. But that's not where, the typical person is looking to get their caffeine consumption, the daily or the habitual caffeine consumption. They're looking to do that through a drive-through.
Yeah.
And I think you are now seeing almost 2,000 of these drive-through only units just between Seven Brew and Dutch Bros alone that are out there. And, there's only 14,000 Starbucks in the U.S., right?
I don't think I've ever seen a walk-in Dutch Bros.
They are working on one, I believe, in L.A. right now.
Yeah, they're finally, there's one in Orange County. So I went to school in Oregon, and the standalone drive-through coffee shop, that was the first time I'd see it because I'm from L.A., and it just was like, this makes a lot of sense. That was back in I'm not going to say my age, but early 2010s.
Right.
But yeah, I've been wondering when they were coming to Los Angeles, and they're doing a sit-down one because of LA?
Not a sit-down. They're doing literally a walk-through.
Oh.
Walk-through.
I have to look into this.
Yeah,
that sounds very interesting.
Neither of those cons. And Seven Brew, I just heard about one. I haven't seen it, but I heard about one this last week. Seven Brew also has a walk-through.
Interesting.
And so I don't know. I'm not aware of a single one of their coffee locations for either brand having any indoor dining.
They went all in.
They have some patio space. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, plenty of patio space, but
yeah, so interesting.
yeah.
And then
Go ahead. Just circling back, kind of closing that off. So you have all these different things going on at the intersection of like how a customer pays for the product, how it goes in, how the order's then filled, and then how the inventory's pulled, everything else attached to that. And we all know, and everybody has had at least one, mobile order app incident in their life. There's nothing worse.
Yeah.
Because you've already waited 50 minutes and then it's wrong, or you get charged wrong, or the delivery driver is rude, or whatever it is. It's a nightmare, an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And so it's so critical that you dial that in and get it right. And so there's a lot of pressure on the operators there. We're seeing the drive-thru coffee biz change. I think we're going to continue to watch the burger biz continue to escalate. Chicken's been the hottest commodity for a while. Does that continue over the next decade? Don't know.
If my husband has anything to say about it, yes.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, he loves Dave's Hot Chicken.
Dave's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a good one in LA. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's just in LA. I'll look it up and let you know after we record.
So we're seeing a lot of those brands continue. And it will be interesting to see where we head over the next 10 years. I am hearing a lot more about prefabricated buildings again, and that has really surged. We built a couple, and we learned a lot of what not to do.
Can you explain a little bit about what that is for people who might not know?
Sure. So the easiest way to think about it is you just have like a warehouse in an area where labor is cheap, and there you basically build the entire building in the parking lot. And so then, like, imagine this little mini 7 brew then gets shipped to its location.
Yeah.
And then a crane hoists it off the truck and drops it into the location.
That's
Meanwhile, the local site GC, what they have to do is they have to create a crawl space. They have to pour stem walls. So you got like foundation walls coming about 18 inches out of the ground. They've run all the plumbing, electrical conduits, all of that's run and all set. They've poured all the site perimeter concrete or asphalt. They've kind of done all that. And then the building's craned into place and it's bolted to the ground.
Yeah.
And now you have a building.
So cool.
It's wild.
I'm curious, why would somebody choose to do prefab instead of traditional construction?
It's typically a time and money thing. And then I think also the bonus depreciation being there is very helpful as well. So for sure there's a tax motivation there behind the people paying for the buildings.
Sure. And we can get, if we want to, a little bit into the 100% bonus depreciation that just became a thing for people. But getting into the construction cost of it all, we're still just not sure what's happening with interest rates. Hopefully we'll see some change. I think what the meeting is tomorrow.
Yeah, I believe so.
So as of this recording, they're going to have another Fed meeting. But, I know a lot of underwriting is pricing in kind of these higher rates and really anxious at the bit to get transactions going. How are you seeing these macro factors really come into play with the projects that you're working on from a labor cost standpoint, materials cost standpoint, interest standpoint?
Yeah. After forming our company in January 2020, COVID hit 2 months later.
Yep.
And so it was, okay, what is this?
You went through the peachiest of times.
Right. So then we got through the year, and then about a year later, we're coming into the spring of 21. So in year one, or you're going into year two, and all of a sudden you couldn't get rubber roofing, right? So almost all commercial buildings have a rubber roof, TPO roof. And it's a flat roof, and it's a rubber material that they literally just comes on a sheet, and they roll it out and put it on the building. Well, you couldn't get it. Like, it was like a 50-week lead time. And then all of a sudden it was, oh, this is a lead time. Oh, this is a lead time. Gas risers, oh my goodness. The gas riser backup was wild. And the problem was all these factories had shut down, whether they were in China or here or elsewhere. So all these factories had shut down, and then we kept building buildings, and so there was no weakening of demand for the product. It's just you couldn't get any of the materials. And so a gas riser is literally like a metal pipe that goes like this and then goes into the building. So it connects to the gas main outside and then comes into your building. It was like 50-week lead times on stuff like that. And so we got through that supply chain shortage, which was truly wild because, here you are, you're trying to develop, you're trying to build the building. It's hard enough just to try to learn the construction process, learn how everything's going together.
Yeah.
Now I have to learn how everything's supplied to the contractor or the subcontractor.
Mm.
Now I have to go down the line and go figure out how am I going to get electrical switchgear in Mexico at the Eaton factory when I can't find it.
Yeah.
True story. We drove to El Paso and picked up multiple pieces of electrical components during that time period.
Oh my gosh, did you feel like smugglers?
Yeah. I mean, we're
getting
on
this like very rare material.
Once a week, we're hanging out with our buddy Tomas,
Yeah.
out of Juarez, and we're talking to him on WhatsApp, and it was a wild time.
Yeah.
Then we got to the next year, and then the interest rates fell out from under us, and so I truly feel like, and what's happened since then is construction pricing has never come down. It's never softened.
Yeah.
Interest rates are now higher, so we have higher interest expense. So it has quite literally been about as perfect of a bad storm as you could have for 5 straight years. I would tell you the one consolation that we have when we look at each other in the office, we say, if we can survive this, we're good, right?
Yeah.
It can't
for life.
Yeah, I don't know how it gets worse right now. I really don't. And I feel like Captain Ron when in the storm on Forrest Gump when he's yelling.
Yeah.
What are you going to bring on now?
Lieutenant Dan.
So it's such a tough proposition, and I think the worst part of that is that the operators, the food operators, have just as bad of a problem because labor is still high.
Yeah,
they're now paying more for their goods than they ever have. They're getting, there are a lot of different components. You have a lot of these minimum wage pressures that are starting to wreak some havoc in this state, particular, right in California. It's a real mess, and it's really stressing a lot of people out. So the developers are stressed, and landlords, and the tenant is stressed. It's really a bad equation. So I just hope something lightens here over the next 12 months because it just would be nice to not have to be on DEFCON 9 all day long.
Yeah, no kidding. You're walking in a minefield with any given project. But number must go up. They still have to grow. Like you said, In-N-Out has to grow by virtue of they've had these people on their team for so long that they want to give career longevity.
Yeah.
As just one example. So, California is obviously probably a trickier market to start new projects in. So I won't ask about that. But, when you're looking out nationally, are there any markets you're keeping an eye on that are of interest to you? And, when you're doing that research, I'm curious, what tools have you found to be most useful for compiling that information or, making that next investment development project decision in terms of a market site selection perspective?
Yeah. A lot of what I am doing is networking with brokers. And I'm talking to the tenant rep brokers or the landlord brokers because I want to know about the next dark vacant, fast food building, right? What is coming down the pipeline for X brand or Y brand, and are they closing? And so a lot of my stuff comes from there. I think the tools that they're probably using is a combo. It's Crexi, it's word of mouth. It's just going through with Placer and determining what are the top, bottom 20% of the restaurants on a sales or foot traffic basis, right? Based off of Placer data. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I find most retailers still use restaurant trends. So same thing, doing the same exercise, but with restaurant trends data.
Yeah.
And so that is where a lot of those come from.
Mm-hmm. So what are they telling you?
What do you mean?
What markets are they looking at?
What markets? Yeah, we're a little bit. We're obviously very focused on anything in our backyard. So all of the mountain and desert states we're very active in. We have a dozen projects going in NorCal right now. Mostly, Bay Area, all the way over to SAC, and then kind of coming down through Central Valley. We are about ready to announce a really big project that's going to put us very much in the state of California for a handful of years here, building a lot of drive-thrus.
Can we announce it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, we'll circle back to you there.
Sure.
I'm very curious. I was about to ask, before we get into our rapid fire section, what are you most excited about?
Yeah.
Looking ahead the next 12 months. So if not that, give us something else.
Well, we've also been evaluating if we should also step into the operator world. We've not done that before.
Oh, okay.
And there are a few of these brands that we really like them, and we have a lot of synergy with them. And when we walk in the door at their corporate office building, we feel at home, right? Because, it's good, hardworking people and they're after it. And so on some of these where we feel very passionate about the concept, we take on, as the developer on a net lease building, you're taking on just as much risk that the brand is going to work as anything else. And so part of it is we've wondered, is there a role for us to play taking that risk on and being the operator? And so I think as we look at 26, we'll probably pull the trigger on something there.
Ooh, it's going to be a Dutch Bros. I know it. No, I'm kidding. You're like, we'll see.
I don't think they're franchising anymore. They haven't.
Oh, really?
They had franchisees originally.
Yeah.
And then when they shut down the program, they've allowed their franchisees to continue to grow. We've built some stores for some of them.
Yeah.
And but I don't think they're onboarding new franchisees, unfortunately.
Well, maybe you can persuade them.
It'd be fun. Right?
It would be really fun. All right. Got to get into rapid fire. I know we could keep yapping for a while now, but I won't keep you forever. You got to go to Reconvene.
That's it.
Coming up in like an hour or so. But, to kick us off, rapid fire, if we handed you $50 million today, and this is actually good timing because you're going to Reconvene, you had to invest it immediately, where would you park that capital and why in real estate?
I would probably, one of two ways. I would either go find 25 vacant buildings, all fast food, right? And it would probably be a heavy emphasis in the Western U.S. for sure.
Cool.
And then, or I would go look for, I like the 5 to 8 acre tracts. And so think of like the double section lines in Las Vegas where you've got a killer corner and it might be a little green out there a little early, but you still know that it's going to be a 50, 60, 70, 80,000 car count intersection per day. And just buy the whole swath and then you control the whole corner and now you kind of carve your own destiny.
Yeah, I like that. Good answer. What is the worst advice you've been given about being successful, whether it's in development and brokerage, anything that you've just,
There are a few people that I have talked to that have been tremendously successful with 1 or 2 development projects and just tell you how easy it is. And, I honestly wonder if this is what gets taught at MRED classes because we have a lot of MREDs. I don't mean to be disrespectful to the entire concept of an MRED, but there's a lot of people that come out of the MRED program and they just think they're ready to roll. And I just hate to tell you, that's probably not going to be your experience unless you're lucky, some of these folks. So I've had some of those people, I had one instance where I got specific advice and it was just like, oh yeah, this is just the easiest business in the world. Just keep going bigger. The bigger, the better. And I just thought that is the worst advice I've ever heard, possibly ever.
How old are you?
Like 28, 29
Oh,
years
you're
old.
younger,
Young,
yeah.
young. And even then I was like, no,
I am not going to listen to you, sir or madam. What is the craziest way you found a new client or business partner?
Kennecott Mine owns the enormous open pit copper mine on the west side of Salt Lake County. It's huge. You can see it from space. Rio Tinto is now the parent company because they bought them. So they announced that they were going to do a PUD, right? Well, their PUD was going to have, I don't know, it was like 100,000 people living in it, right?
Yeah.
It's like building Irvine and they call it a PUD basically. Yeah. So they announced this new project called Daybreak, and I knew that they had appointed a commercial real estate person at Daybreak. And so I knew his name, and so I called him, and I called him again, and I called him again. I was like, what in the world is wrong with this guy? He won't return my phone call. What is his issue?
Yeah.
And so then I was like, you know what? This is a game. I wonder if I can call him twice a week. How long is it going to take? If I call him twice a week, I'll call him Tuesday and Thursday morning. Tuesday morning, Thursday afternoon. So it was like Tuesday at 8:30, Thursday at 1. My calendar would ding each time, and I would call. 1 year. It went on for a year.
Oh my God.
He calls me out of the blue. It was like a Friday.
Yeah.
I see the caller ID. I instantly know who it is. This is when you're hardwired in.
You make him wait. Like the fourth ring is when you pick up.
I'm old enough that I started when you were hardwired in with it, like an earpiece, and you couldn't get away from the actual cord to the phone. So I see the number come in, hit it, I'm like, I'm blown away.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you know who this is? I'm like, of course I know who this is. I have your phone number memorized. I'm like, you're killing me. Of course I know who you are. He's like, okay. We're like 2 years out from even thinking about doing commercial here. Like, we got a long way.
Yeah.
Please stop calling me, and I promise you I will work with you on everything I ever do out here. And I said, okay, I'll call you once a week. And he's like, I'd expect nothing less. And that was it. And we then
That's amazing.
we did a lot of things together, and it was way entertaining. But
Out of pure spite. I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to end this conversation.
Right?
I was going to ask what advice do you have, but it sounds like, have a little bit of spite in your gut, and it's gonna get someone to answer the phone a year later.
You don't never give up, right? You just keep going, right? I mean, and that's the thing is, look, maybe a way to end here is it's been an incredible couple of very negative weeks in this country. There's been a lot of bad energy that any of us could focus on.
Yeah.
All we can do individually, each one of us, is our own part. Look at Todd Graves, founder and owner of Raising Cane's. Look at who he is as a person. He's raising his kids. He's raising a family. He's building a team, and he's giving back along the way. Every day, I got to believe, I've never met Todd in person. I just know of him. But I got to imagine that he's the kind of guy that just helps and just does things and just is nice and smiles at strangers as he's passing by them at the airport or wherever he is, right? And I think that's all we can do in the world is just our own part to just be better.
Yeah. I love that. Cut. That's a perfect sign off. Amen to that. Chris, this has been so much fun.
Do we do okay?
We're doing great. Oh, I'm doing my sign off.
Right. Okay.
I'm just really so grateful that you came all this way out here to film with us, to chat with us. Where can people find you if they want to watch the live stream or connect with you on social media?
You can find us just at forzacommercial.com. And you're welcome to hit me up. If you search for Dirt Dog, pretty much anywhere you can find me as well. So,
yes.
Dirt Dog Pods on all the podcasting systems.
Yes, definitely go listen to Dirt Dogs. It is.
But not before you listen to this. Comment, like it, subscribe,
yes,
and share it with every friend.
Yeah, we'll share links. It's all in there. Well, awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone who tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, do not miss the next one and let us know about it. Leave us a comment, like you said, rating, review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast or video content. You can view this episode and all our past episode and show notes on crexi.com/podcast or on our YouTube channel. And stay in touch. Thanks so much, Chris.
Yeah.